Good evening. Tonight commences the Metro Washington Area Subcommittee. We have two items on our agenda. We're going to actually start with MCPG 10525, Washington Suburban Sanitation Commission Membership Transparency Billing and Planning Act of 2025. And I understand there is an update from Delegate Corman, and thank you to the folks at WSSC for joining us to provide an update as well. And Doug Cormier can take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do see Delegate Solomon's now arrived. I know
Oh,
you
okay.
take his bill first if I'm happy
Okay,
to.
yes. Thank you so much. Delegate Solomon, are you there?
Yep. Yeah, and sorry for the mix-up. I thought you were going to start on the other one. We had a leadership meeting that was running a little long, so I didn't mean to make you all wait.
No, it's all right. It's all right. No problem. No problem. Well, since you're here, we will go in the order of the agenda, commencing with the blah, blah, MCPG 11625, Montgomery County Municipal Authority to Regulate Structures Alterations. Delegate Solomon, I understand there are a couple of amendments, and thank you for your hard work and working with the planning board on these amendments. So I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to so many of you that have helped on this. This was really, really does take a village or a town, depending on your municipality, to get this done. Sorry, had to start with a municipal humor, some municipal humor to make it a little lighter on a gloomy afternoon. So we did a lot of work since when the bill was presented back in December, but I think ultimately where we came to is kind of I think where the framework had been that we were discussing, and so I know you should have an amendment that was sent over, and I know Jen's been working with our team all afternoon to get this done. So thank you for that. A little bit of a fire drill on a whole host of sides, and I think there's one language tweak that needs to be made to the amendment that was just a drafting error. But essentially, what we did to clarify was really come in and make it clear that this was meant to apply to structures that are 4 units or less, or housing types that are 4 units or less. And again, I think many of you will remember, because of the ambiguity in current law and the AG's ruling that we got back in 2021, we really needed to clarify this. And there was never an intention to sort of have municipalities be able to, to provide tweaks and changes to some of the rules around anything bigger than 4 units. So what we're talking about here is obviously single family homes, duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes, and to really make it clear that that's where we were staying. And so that's essentially what this language does. It just makes it clear that this authority is only meant to apply to units, to buildings or structures with 4 units or fewer, and again specifically spells out including duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, cottage clusters, townhouses, and similar buildings, and then sort of the accessory structures that go along with it, things like sheds, or other structures that are not necessarily housing, but that municipalities have the right currently under law to be able to regulate. And again, I really want to give recognition to the folks at the planning board and our municipal governments who really worked hand in glove on this. And so we got to a place, and I know Kathleen's on, and I think you should have gotten the county's updated statement. The council took a unanimous position of support on this last Monday. The planning board also unanimously supported this, and I know Artie and the planning board team are here as well. Chair Harris. And then I know there were questions about Tacoma Park. Delegate Wilkins, obviously important for you, given your district. I did talk to Mayor Searcy on Friday and walked her through the updated amendment. She seemed pretty comfortable with where we ultimately wound up, and told me that at worst, the city of Tacoma Park would be neutral on this, but this was ultimately where they were comfortable. She was going to have her housing and planning staff review it. I have not gotten a formal response back from her yet, but I think I feel comfortable saying that she was comfortable with, at worst, we would be neutral. They were comfortable with all the other municipalities working on this, and then we have agreement from the 11 other municipalities that have worked on this that this is the language that they are comfortable with. So I think, hopefully, knock on wood, I think we've got an agreement from a whole variety of sectors here that this is an appropriate path forward.
Okay, great. I do see a question, Delegate Plakovich Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate Solomon, for all of your efforts and really working with me and some other members of the delegation for several months now on the language. So I just want to clarify. So the amendment now would have just the municipal authority for 1 to 4 units residential, but for any zone. Is that right? Any type of zoning?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that. Again, thank you for all of your effort on this.
No, thank you. Thank you, Madam Delegation Chair. Yes. Yeah, sorry, my head's spinning a little bit, but this was part of the issue. So, for example, one of the things we discovered was, Kensington, for example, which already has sort of a robust array of housing types, had like a floating townhouse zone. There's sort of idiosyncrasies in the code that for certain types of zones that don't even really exist anymore. And so this was the good partnership between the planning board folks and the folks in the municipal governments to make it clear. It doesn't matter what type of zone, we're only restricting it to four units or fewer, which again is the intent of sort of where the county eventually may go in further housing construction as well.
Move the amendments, Madam Chair.
There a second?
Second, with the understanding that there's a technical amendment coming down the road.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, it's a clarifying of a misprint. Yes.
Great. Okay. Delegate Corman motioned, Delegate Blanchard second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the amendments put forth, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Jen, you caught that? I can't see everybody, so. Okay, great. Okay, it looks like that's pretty much unanimous. Is
Move the
there?
bill, Madam Chair.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Yes, I do want to mention I think this bill is in a great posture, but being the only member of the committee that represents Tacoma Park, and I have not gotten a strong indication from them yet, I plan to either abstain if that's within our rules or vote no, but I may be voting for it in full.
Understood. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye or raise your hand. Okay. And are any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, 1 abstention, Delegate Wilkins. Okay, so that bill has passed out of committee. And thank you,
everybody.
thank you everyone for your hard work. It's a great posture of this bill. So thank you so much. Now we are going to go forward on MCPG 10525, the WSSC Transparency and Reform Act of 2025. I understand there, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, there's updates from Delegate Corman, and please take it away.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Of course, WSSC is here as well to
Yes.
keep me honest, and I'd like to thank them for all their work on this. The full commission had a meeting. Time's crazy around here, but I think that was last week, and then there's been a lot of staff work going on since then. So I thought I would just go through the bill and sort of say where things are or aren't, if that's helpful to people.
Yes, please.
So the first section of the bill, starting on page 2, which adds the Director of Montgomery County's Department of Environmental Protection to the commission in place of one of the current members. I think WSSC's eventual position was that they don't have a position on this because it's a governance question, and they defer to the county executives and county councils. County Executive Elrich supports this change with a few clarifying amendments, one of which I'm further modifying so that this would take effect at either of the next 2 openings. It would be up to the county executive which it would be, but they'd have the opportunity either of the next 2 commissioner openings to replace them with the director of DEP. The county executive also has to be clarified that that person can serve as the chair or vice chair, that they're a voting member, an ex officio voting member, and that the residency requirement does not apply to them because there's a chance they won't be a resident. So all that made sense to me, and I think WSSC is fine. But again, they'll have a chance to express an alternative view. Page 4 of the bill related to long-range planning scenarios and stress testing. In general, WSSC provided some alternative language that I thought, was all, very positive, consistent with things they were already planning to do, which is great. And they'll share those with us and publicly. So that's all positive. I think the one area that we're still having a little bit of back and forth on is whether or not the role of ad valorem taxes should be included in these studies. They've asked for an alternative to actually including them, kind of a side description in the financial planning. Frankly, I'm still looking that over. I have to say, I've shared this with them. I'm a little befuddled by their view of ad valorem taxes. It's clearly something that they have the power to ask the county council for, and all of the bond rating agencies mention it in the bond ratings of WSSC. It's clearly very important to WSSC, but I understand and I can see they have their financial officer here to repeat their concerns if necessary. So I've heard their concerns. I can't say I understand them, but I've heard them, and so I'm looking over the language they sent about sort of how to deal with that issue in a way that concerns them less. I wouldn't say it satisfies their concerns, but concerns them less. So I appreciate them trying to come to a compromise. Page 6 deals with the searchable website and some more public information. They've suggested some minor tweaks to the language, all of which seem perfectly sensible and fine to me. And obviously all of this, I should say, will be, in amendments hopefully before the committee next week. On page 8, we had these high bill adjustment debate. WSSC is concerned that by removing all guardrails on high bill adjustments, that will cause them financial challenges, or at least perceived financial challenges with the bond rating agencies. Of course, this is something that's been changed before in the past based on General Assembly feedback. But I know from watching their board meeting and talking to the general manager and Monica and others that they are taking efforts to try to improve how they respond to these high bill incidents. And so we've worked out a compromise where they will sort of report to us on the work they're doing on that and the implementation of that work to make sure that our constituents are being dealt with in a better fashion than some of the experiences I know we've all had with constituent service in our office. Also on page 8, we had this intent language about monthly basis billing. 2 changes there, one of which I know WSSC wants to do, which is to make clear that this is a technology neutral intent. We're not dictating any particular technology. I'm also going to propose that we change it to fixed billing. That could be monthly, it could be quarterly, bi-monthly, but some fixed period of time. It doesn't necessarily have to be monthly. And again, this is just intent language. And at the bottom of pages 8, going into page 9, at the bottom of page 8, there was a study on differential rates. As I said at the original hearing, WSSC has a separate bill on this. So I propose striking this section, which I believe WSSC agrees with. And then there is a section on the Office of Program Evaluation and Government Accountability of DLS doing a study. I've worked with WSSC on a compromise where most of this study would be done by WSSC's Inspector General, a position that this delegation and Prince George's and the General Assembly set up a number of years ago. And so the OIG would do most of the reporting and then submit that report to the DLS office. I've shared that with the DLS office and they seem comfortable with it, or they're double checking with Executive Director Gruber to make sure that's consistent with their practices, but their initial response was that it looked okay. One piece of the DLS review, though, did relate to the Office of Inspector General. Obviously, the Office of Inspector General should not be reviewing themselves. So I've been working with WSSC on an alternative where they would use sort of a peer review service to do a similar, though not identical, study. And I will share the author of the Inspector General bill a number of years ago was now Senator Kramer. I've spoken to him about this. He, agreed it was a good idea to do some type of review here. So I think hopefully we can finish dotting the I's and crossing the T's on the OIG peer review piece. So all that is, very positive. That leaves 2 areas where I do not think we've reached compromise yet. One is the short title of the bill. Believe it or not, there's a lot of concern about the short title of the bill. I will leave it to my committee colleagues to decide what to do about the short title of the bill, which obviously has no legal effect. And the other piece is on the Avenel piece, very important to my district, and still working through that and hoping to have, some further progress this week, but it's an ongoing process. So my goal, if it pleases the chair and the committee, is to have all of what I just described drawn up in amendments over the next week, and so that we can present them to the committee next Monday. And then if there's any progress between now and then on the Avenel issue, obviously would reflect that as well. So that is a long update, Madam Chair, and happy to answer any questions. And of course, I'm sure WSSC wants to give their version of events.
I don't have any questions. Does anyone have any questions of Delegate Corman before we go to Ms. Powell, Ms. Marquinhos? Okay, seeing no questions, please take it away. Thank you. I don't hear you, even though you're not on mute. But now you're on mute. I'm not sure what happened there.
Monica, are you able to get off mute? She was having some technical difficulties
Yeah.
earlier.
Okay. Yeah, I cannot hear you, but you're off mute.
I will get started in the
Okay.
interest of time.
Sure,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate Corman, and thank you for working with our team. On the OIG, I did have a discussion with him today, and he reminded that they had a recent peer review. So if you would like, we can send that to you, but he is aware of, he actually provided the language for the proposed language change in the legislation. So he just wanted me to remind of that, the recent peer review that was done. And on the ad valorem tax, in the public use article, ad valorem tax is listed with water and sewer charges. And I was able to find a document from 2008 where there were some alternative options. Not sure why that those options were reviewed. It looked like multi-year options. We have not done that, and our financial advisor did advise against including that in our long-range plan. Munetsi Massara is our CFO. He can speak to that a little more, but we are going to look into what prompted that those alternatives in 2008. And the language in the public utilities article, I believe, listed it in case ad valorem taxes are needed, not that it is meant to be in our long range plan, but we understand what your request is at this point, and we'll look further into that and follow up with you if that's okay. Otherwise, Timothy, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, just a quick clarification, Delegate Corman. Why we're and our financial advisor of the opinion why it should not be included. So when you look at our debt, the primary level of security is our system revenues from fees, charges, rates, and assessments, and other available fees. The ad valorem taxes are a secondary level of security. So pretty much they are our security blanket, right? It provides our debtors with that almost guarantee that if anything happens to the commission, their debt will be covered through the ad valorem taxes. So the ad valorem tax revenue, if it was collected, would only cover debt service. It wouldn't cover operations. It wouldn't cover any capital. So that's why, from a planning perspective, we don't include that as a scenario, because if we include it as a scenario, it provides the presumption that WSSC is anticipating not being able to fund its debt service. So that's the reason why it's not included in our long-term planning. We do, however, reference that fact that, look, if anything happens and we're unable to service our debt, then that we can request the ad valorem taxes. So from an operating perspective, from our financial metrics, cash days on hand, leverage, debt ratios, that's strictly based on what we have in our long-term plan based on the revenues that we expect to collect. So just wanted to provide that clarification.
Ms. Marquinhos, how's your audio?
I'm here now, I think, right?
You're
Okay,
good.
good.
Great.
Okay,
I'll let you
good.
speak before we get to Delegate Corman. Go ahead.
Okay, no, the GM Powell covered it very, very well. Thank you so much, and Manesti. And I just really wanted to thank Delegate Corman. We've gone back and forth, and same expectation from me, Madam Chair, as far as next week providing those amendments in writing to you and any updates. I didn't want to give you something that was going to be outdated by the time we met today. And so, but please know that that's something we're working on, and we look forward to working through some of the other issues that are still outstanding.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Dr. Corman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks again to WSSC. I think the issue with the ad valorem taxes is, yes, it's a security blanket. I think that was your phrase, and it's a really nice thing to be able to point to with the bond rating agencies. I know from spending many years looking at Maryland's bond rating agency reports, they really love when people have the ability to tax their way out of problems, which is what the ad valorem tax provides. And so I think the idea behind the provision, and I'm just sharing this in case it's helpful as you further consider, and I know we have some separate language that you all sent over that Monica relayed, is I think it still might be of interest to members of the public to know the level of ad valorem taxes that might be required if the security blanket were needed. If you had to break the glass to get the emergency kit, what would that look like? So I think that was sort of the point of the provision, but again, we don't need to belabor it here. Monica has sent over your alternative, which I'm still reading over. But I just wanted to share for the committee's benefit, for your benefit, why I put that in there to begin with, and why I think it's actually has some potential value. And I understand that you don't want the rating agencies or others to think that it is your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth option when it comes to servicing your debt. But it is a tool that you have. And so that's why I suggested sort of doing it as a separate report. But again, I have what Monica sent over. So appreciate the time and the information. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, you're on mute.
I think I would figure this out, Ms. Powell. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Delegate Corman, we can send you this previous analysis as an example to see if that fits what you were thinking about. And the explanation you just gave is helpful. And perhaps this will, this is a document I literally just found before the meeting. It's from 2008, so maybe that might be helpful.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you to the General Manager. Madam Chair, I'll keep an eye for that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the bill? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much for the update. We'll be looking forward to seeing the amendments so we can continue to push this forward next week. So before we close, I need to revisit MCPG 11625. I understand that Delegate Wilkins would like to change her votes. So I'm giving the opportunity to do that.
It's been brought to my attention that the delegation does not do abstentions. As a former parliamentarian, the rules are extremely important to me, which is why I asked. So I would like to be please recorded in the no for now. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And with that, those are our two items on the agenda, and that will conclude our Metro Washington Area Committee. So thank you all. And